You ever get hit with so much information that you don't know what to do and you basically just kind of freeze in your tracks, or the old saying, like deer caught in headlights? Well, if you have, just know that you're not alone, because I would say that's definitely one thing that I'm navigating through right now in my dynamic, especially given all the changes that I've made in my life in order to get to the point to where I am, to be able to see and understand the world and people in the unique way that I seem to be gifted in. Not to say that it's something specific that only I possess, but I know that there are others like myself that are out there that have these special and unique interactions with other people that often kind of leaves you scratching your head as far as why they happened. But you were able to show up in a way that it seemed like you were able to, I guess, provide like maybe a missing puzzle piece, if I can explain it. And maybe that's not even putting it correctly. But it's just situations that come up to where you're going about your daily life and it almost seems like you're placed in front of someone that may be having a bad day, may be going through something, and unbeknownst to you, some of the words that you use in that moment is exactly what they needed to be able to reframe what it is that they're going through and see it in a different light. And it may not be in that specific moment that what you say helps out, but it's down the road or whenever something comes up that they need that information that you provided in that moment. They remember, oh, I remember a conversation with so and they mentioned this, and this reminds me exactly kind of what's going on now, so let me pay attention to it and let me remember or recall what it was that they said, because I can really use that information and it helps me now. One example of it, not necessarily from a person, but when I was younger, I had a Pontiac Grand Prix GTP, and it's pretty fast. You know, at least I used to think at that particular time. It was my first car that I really had, that had a supercharger on it. So, needless to say, I had my foot in it a lot of the different times. And this was back in the early 2000s when YouTube was really kind of coming out and wasn't nowhere as big as it is right now. And I remember seeing a video where it was someone explaining that if your car started fishtailing, so say you're driving down the road and something happens and your car starts fishtailing to where your back end of your car is swerving and you needed to get the car back under control without wrecking it, it was somebody going through and instructions on what you were supposed to do. In essence, if your rear of your car is swerving to the right, kicking out to the right, that you spin your wheel over to the right, and then you, as it kicks back over to the other side, you quickly spin the wheel back over to the other side. And through that repeated motion, and with taking your foot off the gas, then in essence, you're able to get the car back under control and can continue going down the street. In the particular moment, I didn't know why I saw that, but I took note of it, something interesting, file it back in the memory, the memory cabinet, so to speak, and then progress about my life. Well, who would have known? Well, I wouldn't have known, but obviously, my higher self, the divine spirit, knew what was about to happen to me and that this information would be useful. So there was an instance to where some friends and I were driving south to go hang out. And it was a 2-lane highway driving south. It was the middle of the day, but I remember we were talking. It was me and 2 other friends. One of my friends was sitting next to me. Obviously, I was driving, and then another friend was sitting in the back seat. And I remember basically, driving down there, was obviously going faster than I probably should have in the moment. And I remember a deer walked out right in front of us, and I was probably going about 60, probably, I would say about 50, 60. I don't think I was going any more than 70 miles an hour, but I was going at a relatively fast speed. And what's your normal reaction when you see a deer walk out in front of you? You want to slam on the brakes and you want to swerve out of the way to try and miss. And that's exactly what I did. And guess what happened when I did that? My car started fishtailing. And during that moment of panic starting to set in, what do you think came to the forefront of my mind? It was just like magic. That video that I saw, didn't know why I saw it in the moment, didn't understand it, but in that critical moment, the knowledge that I wasn't for sure why I was being shown to, it came back to me, and I started going through the motions. Car bobbed right, all right, let me spin the wheel to the right. Car bobbed left, all right, let me spin the wheel to the left. And by doing that motion over and over, I was able to get the car under control. We didn't wreck. Basically, the car, I took my foot off the gas during those motions. It came back into place to where we started going straight down the road again. The deer moved out of the way and didn't hit the deer. But in essence, had I not seen that video or even paid attention to it, or it came into my conscious awareness, I wouldn't have had that knowledge, that information to be able to escape that situation. And I remembered after this fact, in any time that anybody has narrowly avoided an accident, there's that kind of oh shit moment, where you kind of like look around at everybody okay, what's going on. And I remember my friend's brother that was sitting in the back seat, he made a comment. He was just like, Brandon, he was like, that was scary, but he was like, I looked at you and you just looked so confident, like you had this under control, that it reassured me that it was nothing to worry about. And so, like, I heard that, and I'm just thinking to myself, you thought I was confident and whatnot, but, little do you know. But that, to me, is a prime example of things or people coming into our lives that help us in ways that we may not realize that they're helping us in the moment. So I say all of that to say that's one of the things that I'm going through and navigating currently right now in my life is I keep having these experiences with people, with spirit, that I can no longer put on the mask. I can no longer ignore it, try to hide from it, so to speak, because it's getting louder and louder. And it's something that I enjoy doing, like with putting these videos out and doing other things. There's things that I enjoy doing that I feel that I'm being called to really step into. And because just like that video provided guidance to me that helped me, there's a lot of things going on in the spiritual community to where there's so many people putting out so much information that it can become overwhelming to people that feel this deep calling over their life, but they don't really know how to navigate that path. It's a matter of trying something and then failing, and then over time it gets to be exhausting to where you kind of paralyze yourself. And I would say for the longest time of the past couple of years, that's really the dynamic that I have found myself in, to where so many things are happening in my life, realizations, shadow work, my dreams are getting crazy. And that's another video I'm going to make on a dream that I had that taught me a realization. But so many things are amplifying and increasing in my life that I can no longer deny it, because just like I needed that video of how to get your car to stop fishtailing because of something that was coming up, that spirit knew was coming up, my Ori knew that was coming up down the road, and it placed it in front of me to be able to absorb that information and then act upon it later on down the road. There are people that I am the deer video for, that helps guide them, that helps direct them. I'm not telling people what to do. It's simply, hey, in this particular situation, I messed up, or in this particular situation, this is how I felt, this is how I was thinking, this is how I saw it. I went through the scenario, and this is what this scenario taught me. So the next time that this scenario comes back up, because of these things that I've learned, this is how I either will handle the situation, or this is how I did handle the situation. And because of handling it based upon what I learned, then this is how I also grew from that situation. And not from a standpoint to say, okay, you're going to face this situation and here's how you handle it. It's from a perspective of, this is the situation that Brandon faced. This is how Brandon handled it, and this is what Brandon learned. And then going forward, these are the things that Brandon is integrating into his life, so that way, as these situations reoccur or pop back up, Brandon is much more equipped emotionally and intellectually to be able to handle and navigate that dynamic. Things, as they always, or as the saying goes, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So when we notice these instances in our lives where situations are rhyming with previous situations that we've gone through, just like I was equipped with the knowledge needed to navigate how to keep my car from fishtailing, then when you go through examples, potentially you think, oh, hey, this is something that Brandon went through, or he mentioned in one of his videos, and this is how he was able to navigate it. What things can I extract from that would help me navigate it in my own life? Because our experiences are all unique to us. There's no one experience that's the same for everybody. No matter how benign that it may be, the experience, there's something unique in it for each and every one of us. And that's what gives life the spice, so to speak, that we go through, is how do those unique circumstances speak directly to us, and what is it trying to show us about ourselves versus the negative mindset that we may take, that why is this happening to us? So I say all of that to say that I'm finally realizing, I'm finally tired of making myself small, shrinking myself, not being the authentic Brandon that I know that I am and that I can be, and that so many different interactions are trying to bring it out of me, but yet I'm still trying to shove it back down into the bag because of feeling comfortable. But it's not feeling comfortable, but it's being so used to going through the pain that at this particular point in time, the pain almost feels like comfort, because that's the only thing that I've really known. And it's like spirit, my Ori, my higher self, the universe is trying to get me out of that mind frame, because it's something that I'm only in that and viewing the world from that standpoint, because that's the only thing that I've ever known, because I've kept shoving things down in the bag each and every time. So I know, so I can only imagine if you guys are just like me, there's things, there's callings, there's things you feel like you should be doing that you want to do, but the pain is just so comfortable that waking up and dealing with that is easier than pushing yourself and dealing with the unknown that has yet to come into your life, or that you see coming across the horizon, but because it's new, it requires you to step out of your comfort zone. You wake up just easing your toe across the line each and every day versus taking that fool's leap, so to speak. So, and as the saying goes, is progress, not perfection. So, and that's the beauty of life in itself. Taking those motions and going through that, it's part of the journey, it's part of the process, because how do you light a fire? You don't light a fire just by saying fire or trying to will fire in place. You do it by building it up, putting pieces, kindling wood, different accelerants into it, and it's over time by building those things up that when you go to light that fire, that it takes off. It's a robust and big fire, and it actually is able to maintain itself. So I would say don't beat yourself up just with the slow progress, or at least the way it appears to be slow progress, because it's all critical steps that you're taking along the journey. Because take it from me, probably the slowest of them all is that there's a lot of wonder and a lot of joy and a lot of emotions that come from it. But the person that you will become after that, through that process, will be a totally different person that even you don't even recognize. So don't shy away from what Spirit is trying to show you in your life, like I've been doing, And even if you are in that moment, just know that it's okay, because with time, we've all heard the term divine time. So within divine timing, that's when we're going to step into our power, our authority. And through going through those moments of weakness, so to speak, that's where we find our power. I was sleeping today and woke up and I heard a car drive by that must have been listening to an audiobook. And that was a phrase that I heard in that moment. It was in my moments of weakness that I found my strength. And those are the things that happened to where, yes, it could have just been a person driving down the street, listening to an audiobook, but what things had to align up in the universe for that person to drive down the street just at that moment, at that specific part of the book that talks about in your moments of weakness is where you find your strength, trying to help me see that all these moments of quote unquote weaknesses that I've perceived myself of going through, it was really helping me find my strength. So it's situations like that that I keep encountering that I perceive as spirit, my higher self, my Ori, pushing me to step out of my comfort zone, step out of this pain, because there's too many things going on in my life and my world that's showing me that this is where I should be. This is the path that I should be following, but I'm too busy trying to stay in that comfort zone despite the pain that I feel and that I don't like. So my question to you is what comfort zones that are associated with pain are you remaining in because you're too afraid, just like me, to step out into your authentic self, being increasingly vulnerable with people, even though you see that vulnerability is what is your power and your strength. So as far as I'm concerned, no more. I've have so many different things that Spirit has brought to me that wants me to share with other people, experiences in my own life that I've had that I want to share with people, but it requires me to be a little bit more vulnerable than I'm currently willing at this particular point in time. But I know with divine timing, divine alignment, that I will relay those messages when it's needed and most critical, just like that deer video I was mentioning. I didn't know why I was seeing it, just like sometimes I don't know why I'm putting out certain videos and why I'm talking about certain topics that I feel called to talk about. But I know that there's a purpose and I just have to have faith in that. So just know that I love you, family. You know, it was requiring a lot for me to do this, but it's because of the love that I see for my fellow brothers and sisters, because, you know, we're all part of Source, despite what this external vessel looks like. At the end of the day, you are me and I am you. You know, we're all having an experience, and even though those experiences are separate, in essence, it's all part of the collective and how we learn and grow together. So just know that I love you, family. I love you so much, and I want to grow together. I just want to be the best version of myself. I just want to be the best big brother, you know, so to speak, that I can to each and every one of you, and breathe that life into you just the way that Spirit and others breathe that life into me through these interactions. So I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a great day.